When this artist started his career, all he wanted was for us to holla at your boy. And just when we did that, he became a superstar. But as soon as we realized that even as a superstar, people did not really know his name. So he reintroduced himself as Ayra. But like every great artist before him, that recognition wasn't enough. So he went ahead to bring sounds from the other side. And that wasn't well received. Fans argued that this was way ahead of his time. So he decided to come back home and show the world that he is truly made in Lagos. Today, that young talent from the streets of Ojuelegba has grown, and he is all about more love, less ego. Cha-Cha Nation, welcome to another episode of the Cha-Cha Album Review Series on your award-winning podcast, Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast. I remain your humble host, Hafeestonova, aka your musical plug, creator of the Energy Force. Today, we'll be talking about Wizkid's fifth album titled More Love, Less Ego. And joining me on the podcast are the incredible duo of Bega and Nelson of the Sample Axis podcast.
Hey, Cha-Cha Nation.
Hi, Cha-Cha Nation.
Hi, Cha-Cha Nation.
Yes, so Cha-Cha Nation. This na Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast. And based on logistics, we go to amplify the African sound by bringing the best of African music into your ears.
Yeah.
Cha-Cha.
Hey everyone, Boyega Delia, one half of the Sample Axis podcast. It's good to be back here for another episode of the Cha-Cha album review series.
Hey, I'm Nelson, we're here, the other half of Sample Axis. We've been here before, and it's always a great time when we get to talk about albums with Cha-Cha. And of course, I'm excited to go because this one is like, a major album. Even though the last one that we did was also quite big, but I mean, this is Wizkid. We have to talk about it. Every single thing about the album, want to break it down detail for detail. And Cha-Cha, thank you so much for having us.
All right, so yes, like I said, we'll be talking about the new Wizkid album titled More Love, Less Ego. The album was released on the 11th of November, 2022, and the album features Ayra, Starr, Skepta, Naira, Marley, Toliver, Skillibeng, and the production credits goes to P2J, Kel-P, KDaGreat, Sammy, Soso, Priime, Juls, Kofo, and Ayra. Those are the people that worked on the production of the album. Now, Nelson, let me start from you. Let's start from the announcement, when Wizkid made the announcement that, guys, I will putting out a new album titled More Love and Less Ego. What was your reaction and what was your expectation towards the album?
So yeah, the first time I heard about More Love and Less Ego, More Love, Less Ego, you know the way Wizkid is like, when he is with all this album, sometimes you expect the album and then it never comes. So I would say like I was really calm about it. I saw it, but I'm like, I don't get too excited. Come on, it's Wizkid. He can tell us next week that it's going to be ready in 2 years. But we went on and on and on, and it felt like something was actually cooking. So at that point, I was already getting really excited. But one thing was at the back of my mind, and that's something that has been that was hitting me for a long time. Is he going to be able to surpass the level of MIL that's made in Lagos? Is he going to be able to surpass that level that he already created for himself with that, the previous album? And then, when I saw the list, I think the very first time I saw the list it was not the original list. I saw a list of, some other people that are not currently on the album. So example is Lauryn Hill that I was actually looking forward to, but I'm expecting that maybe something might happen in the future, just like the deluxe album for Made in Lagos. But I was quite excited, but I wasn't too hyped because of I know how Wizkid moves. I mean, we have studied how he moves now, so that was something that was always in my mind.
So come 11th of November, the album drops, and then you went ahead to listen to the album. What was your first impression?
It was really exciting. For me, though, because I know a lot of people actually went back at it and were saying, "Oh yeah, it wasn't the greatest and all. Like it wasn't the best for them at first listen." But for me, I had like an open mind. I was very open-minded about it, and I just went in with the idea of, whatever it is given to us, whether it's monotonous, whether it is new, whether it is strange, I'm going to take it in completely. So the first listen for me was quite exciting because, of course, new music. So who's not excited about new music? And then it's coming from Wizkid. So it was a good time, really.
So I think that More Love, Let's Go was teased very early on. This was made in Lagos, was at its peak, I think 2021, middle of 2021, when it's doing the Made in Lagos US tour, sticking into the store. That was when one of those days he teased that 50% done MLLE. We've been waiting for over a year for another Wizkid album. So when we saw that, we felt like, me personally, I felt like, okay, this is prime Wizkid. He's in rare form, he's in very good form. So maybe not. We're expecting some good, but a successful album like in Lagos can hardly be topped. So I knew that he wasn't going to touch it, but I also knew that as an inventor, as a creator, he knows how to shift or how to evolve, and I think we have seen that. What I have also noticed is that he didn't put pressure on himself to beat Made in Lagos. He wasn't going out to do hits. I think he's relaxed, he's in a good position as a human being, as a father, as a leader, and he just wanted to catch cruise and express himself. So when the album dropped, expectation wasn't all that high, and then when I listened, because it wasn't all that high, I think that was cool, especially because of it was arranged. There were instances, Bad to Me dropped as a single. I didn't catch easy, but after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of constant replay, I started to enjoy it. Money and Love dropped, I didn't like it, but when the album dropped, the first 4 tracks played in quick succession, you would appreciate that, and then it slides into a slow mode, not so hype and stuff. But because I wasn't expecting too much, I can extend grace and say, okay, I respect your work, this is what to do.
If there's one thing you and Nelson rightly mentioned, and which is quite a bit different in my own case, was the fact that you both enjoyed it on your first listening, and it was something you both are cool with on your first listening. But for me, to be honest, when I listened to the album for the first time, I think I didn't really quite grab the album, in the sense that, okay, so for me, when Money and Love also dropped, I didn't really like it. Even Bad to Me, when Bad to Me also dropped, I didn't also really like it that much. Not like it was a bad song, I didn't just really connect to it. But when the album dropped and I listened to Money and Love, I'm like, okay, we move. Balance came, Bad to Me came, then Too Sugar with Ayra Starr came in. I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Then Every Day, and for me, that was like where the album started for me. That was where because I felt like, if I listen to this track and I really do not still connect with this album, I'll just pause it and try another day. But immediately Every Day came in. As a matter of fact, I listened to Every Day, I think 3 times before moving on to the next track. And that was how, I was able to connect with the album. The album started for me from track 5, which is, Every Day. Now, I mentioned some of the, producers that were on the album. P2J, Kel-P, Sammy, Soso, just to mention, a few of them. Now, let's talk about the production of the album. We already know that when it comes to Wizkid, his production is nothing but top-notch. But still, we still have to look at it and say, okay, yes, the production of this album, would you say once again, Wizkid has been able to, in terms of production-wise, was he able to, outdo himself, or did he go below par, or he just, maintained that same status? Or what can you say about the general production of the album? Let's start with Boyega.
I'm not very impressed with the production. So production Made in Lagos was very elite. I think it was really elite. Afrobeat wise, that's the when they say Mecca of football, That's the mecca of Afrobeats right there. The peak of Afrobeats 2020. I don't think anybody else, did more to define and mix the sound. It was mixed with R&B at some points. High life with Blessed is giving some kind of high life, laid back R&B on Piece of Me. Ginger is, the Afrobeats elements comes together on Made in Lagos so beautifully, right? Now, here we have it toned down. It's really laid back, it's slow. The song with Ayra Starr, I don't know. I don't really like the song, Too Sugar, but I don't like the production. As much as I don't like the song, I like the song or the vocalization, I don't know, more than I like the production. The production is too simplistic for me. And then that example repeats itself across the album. It's kind of like Slip and Slide, has a slow vibe, almost like sexual sounds, and there's... Again, I don't know how to describe it. It's great production, but it's not so inviting. It's not so invigorating. It's not all that, right? But give me balance, give me frames, and give me money and love. Those are very well, high level production in terms of, curating a sound and trying to clean sound. An enjoyable sound. There's jazz elements, there is laid vibes, but other tracks I don't think I really enjoy the production, and I can attribute that to P2J being the lead producer. So when you're in a certain bag and this is how you come across, I think you are likely to fall into that temptation of sounding the same. Again, this might be the vibe. We just say this is the beats I want, and I'm going to work with it because this is how I feel. Look at Frames. It was literally being emotional on Frames and expressing himself. So I'm seeing that he dictated the pace or the direction of the production. I'm sure there are other beats. He just said, PJ, this vibe, this slow Afro beats, this is what I want. And for me, that's not what I really like from music. I think this will play back production wise, but again, this is what they want.
Well, I think I have a different take from what guys just said. I'm actually a big fan of the production. I think at some point we need to understand that for certain artists, there's a way they're going to always have their music structured. I mean, at some point it might begin to start monotonous, which is what's already happening with Wizkid. But I think because of the kind of person he is and how he's particular about his sound, whoever is working with him, whether it is Kel-P, whether it is P2J, whether it is Priime, whether it is J5, they are always going to have to conform to his sound. So yeah, I was actually I love simple production. Although when it's complex, I like it to be like original all the way, like the whole guitar, the whole drums and everything. I like that. I don't like a lot of electronic sounds. That's why I'm more of an 80s person in terms of production. But for this one, I think overall for me it was very okay because it just stuck to a theme for the album, and that was it. It wasn't anything extremely special. Like I said, if you're going to pick up one or two songs that kind of like are on top of the bunch, for me, first time I heard Balance, I'm like, yo, this is like a jam. I still listen to Balance a lot till date, even though it's still a short time, but I listen to it a lot. And then Frames too, I think it's something that I love to enjoy. For the other ones, they didn't sound particularly exciting. You understand? So I'm not saying that the production was like way up the roof, but I think the production was good enough for Wizkid, if you get what I'm saying. Wizkid had the production perfect. If the production, if you're trying to scrutinize it like, sonically and everything, you'll be like, oh yeah, there's nothing new here. It's just rinse and repeat from what we have had with Wizkid and these guys before. But big shout out to KDaGreat and Kel-P for Balance. Amazing. And big shout out to P2J too for entire thing. I know Toliver was also on the production for Frames as well. So yeah, overall it was good for me, but I don't think it was great. Great being in the sense that, is not a new thing. It's not exciting for a lot of people, but I think it was perfect for Wizkid.
I saw this somewhere when was it Made in Lagos was it either gold or silver? I can't remember which of the certification it got, but I think it's either gold or silver in I think America or Canada. Now I can't remember, but what I can remember vividly was the album was categorized under R&B, and that is where I'm going to. So, but this is not Made in Lagos. Let's leave that and let's talk about More Love, Less Ego. If we were to put this album under a particular genre of music, will you call it Afrobeats? Is it going to be Afro R&B? Is it going to be Afro pop, or is it going to be R&B? What would you call this album and why? Let's start with Nelson.
All right, so I think for me though, I mean, funny thing is, before I even came on with all of this, listening to the album itself, I was already thinking, I'm like, God, do I really want to classify this album as Afrobeats? But because of the infusion of so many things, like what Wega said, the jazz and so many, instruments, I was like, oh yeah, maybe this, because of how chaotic it is, we might want to, settle for Afrobeats. But then you think about the bass, I think it's hard for me to understand, but I feel like Wizkid is metamorphosing to become, that R&B musician. And it might be African R&B, it might be the new wave R&B, but, I think it's coming to that level, because when you listen to that song, apart from songs like Balance and maybe Fringe that, are right on the edge, most of those songs, like, okay, yeah, maybe Money and Love, but a couple of those songs like Back to Me, Every Day, all those songs can actually pass for R&B. In fact, you can say majority of them will pass for R&B, but because of the complexity of, of the approach to music, because R&B is always extremely laid back, I think I'll go with Afrobeats.
This is Afrobeats by the king of the genre. So even though the king of the genre might not want to go off because, less ego, but this is Afrobeat. So you look at Back to Me, Afrobeat with some amapiano, rock drums, etc. Still Afrobeat. Money and Love has jazz elements, has slow R&B vibes, because R&B today, again, is different from what it was in, early on, because Money and Love, I was watching that performance on Jimmy Fallon, I think, and the instrumentation, it was all giving jazz and laid back stuff. So it's still Afrobeats. Flower Pots, I don't remember Flower Pots, but Slip and Slide, Too Sugar, Plenty Loving, Wow with Skepta, and those are Afrobeat jams. So it's still very much Afrobeat. So I think Americans have a problem classifying our music. So what Times was doing on Essence is R&B to them. We call it Afrobeats because of the beats, because of there is this particular genre, Afro swing. Is it Afro swing? It's a very common beat. It's the same beat on Tease Me. It's the same beat on Bad Energy. It's the same beat on Essence. That particular flow is Afro. What do I call it? It's Afro beats, but subgenre or specifically Afro pop, right? So that's what we know it as. But when Terence does that vocalization and the songwriting follows a pattern of what Justin Sky or Kehlani or any of those R&B ladies in America would do, they would embrace that because it's just a beautiful love song, a song to make out to and stuff like that. So I think it's easy for Americans to fall into that R&B trap. But what we're doing here is not R&B to us, it's Afro beats or Afro pop. So the album carries that genre.
Now, Goega, let me stick with you and let's talk about the songs on the album. And I want us to just quickly touch on what song would you say, okay, these are my top favorite songs, and these are the songs that, it didn't make it for me. And why talking about those songs also, let's talk about, the collaborations on the album. which artist for you would you say this artist came through and this one, did not really make it for me?
So before I forget, let me quickly say this one. Every day is giving fella. Every day. For me, that's all I need. When I hear every day, I just complete it with fella's version. Every day, not the same thing suffering. Every day, not the same thing suffering and smiling. So that flow has Afrobeat without the S, even though the production is Afrobeats, Afropop, right? But I didn't really. So when I go from track 1 to track 5, I'm done. I just jump to the last song. I just discovered Plenty Loving. So I'll listen to track 1 to 5. I will force myself to listen to Too Sugar. I don't like Too Sugar. That's track 4. So I'll listen to Money and Love. I love that. Balance, Back to Me. That's the trifecta, run, so to speak. And then because of fella and, I'll listen to Every Day and then Too Sugar and Every Day, 4 and 5. And then I'll jump straight to Frames. Who's Gonna Know? That's the last song. Those are my 5-6 songs on the album. Everything else is forgettable, to be very honest. Maybe I'll catch up later. I try my best to listen to Skepta and Marley, but I'm not feeling it. Plenty Loving is good. I don't like Special featuring Toliver because I don't get it. It's too slow. It's too laid back. But Frames is slow, but somehow the melody is so catchy. And the way he delivered that song, I think a lot of people like Frames. Who's Gonna Know? Another night. Yeah, very emotional, very emo. Yeah, maybe we should slide in that word somewhere here. Emo Afrobeats. There's some emo here too. So those are my 5-6 tracks. Back to Me, Money and Love, track 1 to 5, and then track 13.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of songs here. So, Money and Love for me, I think I like the fact that it started with Money and Love. The vibe was great, energy, awesome. That beginning of Nobody Like Me. But I think Wizkid has actually had, this starting of albums thing. Even though it's not, some other artists, like, for example, all due respect to him, but it's not Burna Boy's level in terms of, starting albums and, being cohesive and all of that. But that energy, that vibe. I love Reckless from MIL, and I love Money and Love from this one. I like Back to Me. I think I'm going to be Balance is my best track by far. No shaking. I'm standing on that. I'm sticking on that. Balance is my best. But nobody's touching Balance on this song. I'm sorry. And then you go to Too Sugar. The Too Sugar song, I feel like it's because the reason why I like it now is because I've heard it a lot. Those kind of songs that TikTok people will do, or everybody, if you get nonsense, so I think they're just caught up with me. But apart from that, then, I'm sorry, I think I like Every Day. It's a jam. Flower Pads, I don't really understand why people like it. I get it's all sexual and everything, but it's not for me. Slip and Slide is actually a song I really like, but it's like that album filler that is so good, it shouldn't just be an album filler. And apart from that, I think the other songs too, I probably skip most of them. I can't lie, I expected maybe because of my anticipation. I thought Don Toliver was going to do a magic or madness with, Wizkid, and then seeing that Juls was on production, I thought it was going to be a man as well. I didn't get exactly what I wanted, and I think things because of peer pressure. So I'm just going to call out 3 songs: Money and Love, Balance, Things, and of course the weird one that I like out of everything, Slip and Slide. Wow, is not bad, but it's not for me. And Every Day too, because of course Hafeestonova loves Every Day, so it makes sense.
Okay, every day I can't stop listening to Every Day. And just maybe now that Vega mentioned, whenever he hears Every Day, he has that every day suffering and smiling. And maybe that's just what I'm hearing on the song that makes me like the song. I can't say, but I know I love Every Day. That was my favorite song on the album. I also love Deep. I also love Flower Pads. Those are the 3 major songs that I love on the album. To be honest, I love Bad to Me. When Bad to Me first came out, I didn't really like it. But after listening to it over time, I begin to enjoy Bad to Me, to be honest. Balance too, yes. Balance is a song, that yeah, it's not like great, but then it's good. I love every other songs. I really don't think I, connect with them, like that. But if I'm going to mention my top 3 songs, Deep, Flower Pads, and Every Day, those are my top 3 songs. Now, before let's round up this whole conversation with the general rating, of the album, and also, what you would say Wizkid has achieved with this album. But Gwega, I'm going to start with you. But before you answer that, since you mentioned Every Day and that fella thing that you are hearing, would you classify that as as a sample, or that was just something that is just playing in your head? Then go ahead and answer the general rating for the album and what you think Wizkid was able to achieve with the album.
I don't think that's a sample. That's just a snippet or a flow. I'm sure. In fact, he might not know that's in any way connected, and it may not be connected to that, but that's the same flow every day. So sometimes it's something you don't know. You may have heard it before, but we know Wiz has a history with Fela's music. So Babuni Shakara, that's outright, 1 line or 2 line or 4 lines repeats of Fela's lyrics. But this one is just one melody, half melody, in fact. So it's not really a sample. It's just one of those things. Rating. I don't think this is a perfect album. I don't think it's stellar. I don't think it's extremely from the world. I think it's just what they call I can say discography filler. So when you say Wiz discography, you go to Superstar, you go to Ayra, you go to Sounds from the Other Side, Sound Man, Made in Lagos, and you talk about after Made in Lagos, 2 years later he was able to do this. I don't think this will stand in his top 4. It may, because of the success he's going to have. Let's not make any mistakes. This album will be successful in terms of streams and awards. I expect some awards to come out of this, or maybe not, but some remixes will come, the deluxe will come, and there will be success. So it's still a successful album, but in terms of cohesion, and then again, maybe we're just too early in the game. This is just 1 month. I have this feeling because just today I discovered Pretty Loving. A lot of people haven't discovered Pretty Loving. It's like Sweet One. Sweet One on Made in Lagos took us some 6 months to catch up. So depending on the promo run, I want them to do promo run balance. When they do promo run for balance and do a big remix, in fact, guys can jump on it. So let's see how the album goes with marketing, and then we can start to see maybe there are some sleepers that we're sleeping on that we need to catch up on. I think Wow can do well if they do a great video for Wow, Skepta and Naira and Wiz might pick up again. So we're watching a great album unfold, but I don't think it's spectacular. So my rating will just be, I think, 4/10 as of now. Maybe that will move to 5 in a few months, but if I only enjoy 6 tracks so far out of 13, I think we can say 4.5. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, finally got to this point. I really don't I always try to avoid, giving numbers to all of these particular albums, because you know how albums can be lately. They can go on to win, a lot of things, and then you realize that, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't have been too early to give them the mark or early to score them. Well, for me though, I think I'll follow what Gwega was saying about the fact that it's not a great album. It's a good one for the discography. I think a lot of people right now, I think a lot of Wizkid fans already themselves, they already know that, oh yeah, this is just going to be one of those albums that, yeah, it was good, had a couple of songs, but yeah, it's not MIL, it's not Superstar. It's not that album that, oh yeah, it's going to be crazy forever. So yeah, I think for production and because of, Wizkid is growing, and because of we're at a point where they are making a lot of great music, and this might actually end up being a turning point, because if this gets a Grammy with this one, it might actually be that album that, turned everything around. So I'm just going to go with a 6.5. You understand? Because of course, I like a couple of songs, but as an album, there are some songs that say that as an album, they're amazing. You understand? Like, a critic, want to give them a great score because of our choreography. I think Wizkid did a very great job. Big shout out to everybody that worked on the album. I really appreciate the album. I think it was needed at the time it came through, but a 6.5 for scoring it at a time like this, in the future, this number might rise, but for now, 6.5.
There was something I wanted to say that you already mentioned. I was going to ask, but you already mentioned it. So I'm going to ask that into the next question. Gwega will start from that, and then, we'll use that to, wrap up the whole conversation. But for me, I feel like if I'm going to rate the album, honestly speaking, the rating of the album for me is going to stand between a 6.5 and a 7. Now, a 6.5 in the sense of, as at now, that is what I can think of. Like, that is what I feel the album does for me. It doesn't move me beyond 6.5. And if, for whatever reason, maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, I keep listening to the album, I don't think I'll be able to go beyond, a 7. It is, quote and unquote, a good album. An album that you look into Wizkid discography and you say, okay, yes, he had this album, it was good. But you won't, point to the album and put your mind to your chest and say, yo, this is a stellar album. This is where this question is going to come in now. Would you say this album is like this because of, I think Gwega rightly mentioned it at the beginning when he was talking, because of it's coming from the huge success that Made in Lagos is having? And could it be as a sort of, I don't know if I should call it fatigue or lack of, I don't know the English to use, but let me say the way it is coming to my mind. Do you feel like we are still, quote and unquote, hangover on Made in Lagos, that we've not really gotten into the vibe of this album, or this album has given what it could give? And Nelson already mentioned that for him, the album came at the right time. So for you, Gwega, would you say this album came at the right time, or this album, came too early compared to the fact that, Made in Lagos is still getting everything out there that it's supposed to get? That was the first question. Then the second question is going to be, obviously, for every album that Wizkid drops right about now, most Nigerians, especially Wizkid FC, will always say, oh, the album should get nominated for a Grammy. We are not saying it should win, but at least they feel like Wizkid, just the same thing that is going to be happening with Burna Boy now. Burna Boy, has gotten 3 Grammy nominations. So we are going to say for every album it drops, we expect it now to be, getting Grammy nominated, even if that's not going to be the case, but that's like what we might expect. So for Wizkid now, would you say this album is worth a Grammy nomination? Does it even contain the element, to make it into the Grammy nomination? Gwega, let's start from you.
So first one was that we hung over on Made in Lagos. I don't think so. I think Made in Lagos from October 2020 has had a very good time. October 2020 into January 2021, it was really entering. January into June, it really had a great time. Essence picked up from like February, and then all over the place, Essence was moving. The same with Ginger, when the videos came, which other song picked up. I wish they shot videos for Blessed and Piece of Me. But those songs, Sweet One, Claire's, they enjoyed the whole of 2021. The awards came, the certifications came, the sales came. So Made in Lagos has had its time. So it's not too early to have another album. In fact, I think it might be too late because Burna dropped almost within the same window, and Love Damini came quickly. So I don't think Made in Lagos is enjoying. Of course, we might still be listening. We might still mean the album as a body of. In fact, after listening to More Love Less Ego, if you are still in that mood to listen to some Wizkid, go back to Made in Lagos and listen. Those pockets of listens will still continue to come, but I think the prime time for MIL may have passed. So that's that. We're not hungover. And again, this is just us talking and trying to review. I'm sure Wiz himself, doesn't really care. In fact, he might be doing this quote-unquote subpar album intentionally, there might be bangers in the hard drive. He will just say, my name is Wizkid Balogun. He said we should call him Sir. He might just say, as Sir Balogun, I will give you whatever I want to give you, and you must feel him. So it's not a matter of he's not a great artist, or I think he's just testing, maybe experimenting. Maybe he wants to alter the sound a little bit again and imprint it on the global market that this is what we call Afrobeat from Africa. This is it. You must collect it. And in fact, you are enjoying this Afro pop, you are enjoying Bad Energy. Also collect this True Sugar. I know it's not so sweet. You might not love it, but that's the music I enjoy in my soul. And you must collect it. So he might be having a good time looking at the reception, listening to podcasts like this, and reading reviews, and be like, okay, you guys should go, but I'll do what I want. In terms of whether this album deserves a Grammy award, we really can tell. It's in the international album or global music category since it's from another country. I don't know all the details, but since it's from another country that is not America, it would naturally be looked at or considered for a global music album, whatever. And then there will be other albums. So if the quality of other albums trump this one, then those will be considered higher. But as Wizkid, as the king of the genre, you would expect a global music body like the Grammys, the Academy, to consider nominating him if he submits. And again, he doesn't really care if he wins or not. He wants to make money.
For the fact that we did win, or should he be nominated for a Grammy, I think it should be nominated for a Grammy. We don't like this thing anymore because, of course, we know that the guys with the big guns, the guys like with RCA and Atlantic, and Columbia, those are the guys that would have the opportunity, and now Empire. They're the ones that would have the opportunity to be able to put in and have guys, lobby for them and talk to the big guns to actually put them up there. So yeah, I think of course Columbia would push to make sure that more love, less ego is there, because like Wega rightly said, Wizkid is the face of Afrobeat, whether we like it or not. Burna Boy might be up there right now and he's sticking with the whole Afro swing, even though we know our Afro, I don't know, I've forgotten there's a way he calls it, and then even though he's up there, he's still in the Afrobeat genre, but Wizkid is the face, that guy that everybody's thinking, do you know Wizkid? Do you know Wizkid? You know Wizkid? So I think they're going to look for a way to put it in, and it's going to be, nominated whether we like it or not. So should it be nominated? That's another question entirely. I think Wizkid probably himself might not care. I think it's just an album for us to just enjoy and chill with. So I don't think it should be. I don't see it yet. I don't think, from what it has done now, I don't think it's that album that would push anybody away, because, like I said, I still stick to the fact that even though it's Afrobeat, it's not like, it's not like that African sound that you want to hear as weird. But of course, Love Damn is there, so it's not far-fetched. And also, I think Wizkid has actually changed, his look towards all of these things and how to approach, music and all of that. So he's on a different vibe right now. And I think he's going to continue to do music as long as he can, which means I was still going to get more songs, maybe singles for a year or two before we get another album. But I really hope he brings out a deluxe. Now, that's the funny thing. Well, I've not spoken about that, but a deluxe album might actually change the outlook of every single thing that we have right now. I mean, 3 or 4 additional songs with great features might actually this album might become from a 6.5 that we gave it to a 9 or even 10 over 10, because of 1 or 2 or 3 that completes it. So it's not far-fetched what to expect from it. And you were saying something I'll be hungover. I think I already cleared that before. But it's about time, so it makes perfect sense. So yeah, I think this album is great. It's great. It's not. I think the word "great" might be too much, but it's a very good album, like very decent album.
Nelson rightly said, we are not saying this album, or at least from Nelson's point of view, this album is not a bad album. Don't say, they said the album is not good. We've not said the album is not good. I mean, Nelson gave it a 6.5. So if you ask a 6.5 over 10, you would say that is a good mark. Compared to Blega that gave it a 4.5 over 10. But with the caveat that in the next 2-3 months, the album might move. As it stands right now, Bega has a 4.5 rating for the album. Nelson has a 6.5 rating, and I have a 6.5 rating. So, for those of you that are listening to this right now, you can connect to me on my social media handle, that is Chacha Music Pod, and tell me what you think about this album. Do you say the three of us, we've completely said rubbish and you feel the album is 10 over 10, or we've overhyped the album and the album is 2 over 10? Let us know what your take is, on the album. That being said, that is where we are going to draw the curtain on today's episode of the Chacha album review series. But before we go, let me just ask Nelson and Bega if there's anything they want to add or they want to say before we call it a day.
I'm just going to say that I hope this enjoyment that we have in Afrobeat will continue. Afrobeat artists are making more money than ever before in Nigeria's history. Artists who, the digital era seems to look. There are many OGs who worked hard and don't have pensions right now. They are in Ibadan, they are in Lagos, they are trying to survive, and they were outside in the 70s. So right now we're enjoying a good windfall. I think that's the word, and I hope it lasts. And I hope we are building around it such that it continues and we make the best of the genre, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I think I stick with, Greg and what he's saying. Because, of course, we have seen a lot of, Nigerian music. In fact, if I call a list, I'm sure a lot of people might not actually know some of their names because they are not up there anymore. So I really want us to, hold this point on the jugular and use it as much as possible. Like, let's just continue to push the music and continue to make quality music too. We have so many artists that are doing great things right now. And one thing I'd like to say, let me just use this opportunity to say it. I think we really need to, as fans, as lovers of the music, we really need to ease up on how hard we come on our musicians. It's a whole lot of work to make music. It's a whole lot of work to actually put out music. So whenever people put out music or whatever, let's as fans, before we turn to the FCs and the outsiders and whatever view that you got, I think you should just first try and appreciate music first, and then maybe from there, whatever it is you want to do afterwards. But please, let's try and appreciate music, because at this point, so that we don't get to I don't know, there's a theme, there's a feel that we used to feel before when new music drops, like 7 or 8 years ago, and I feel like we don't have that feeling anymore. I mean, that's going to probably be a long talk for another day, but let's just really try and enjoy this time, because we might not have a time like this for a long time, where we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 artists doing great at the same time.
They've said it all, and we all have said it all. Let's continue to support Afrobeat. As a matter of fact, that is one of the major purposes of the Chacha Music Review podcast. Like I rightly said, it is basically about amplifying the African sound by bringing the best of African music into your ears. So make sure you keep listening to the Chacha Music Review podcast, and also make sure you also listen to the Sample Axis podcast. With that being said, my name will always remain Hafeestonova, aka your musical plug, creator of the Energy Force. Till I come your way with another episode, remember to keep the energy, keep it 100, and keep it positive. Peace out.
Yeah, cha-cha time, 2 time for the cha-cha gang. Give me the cha-cha gang. Rockin' with the best, cha-cha gang. Give me the cha-cha gang. Alaye la wa cha-cha gang. Give me the cha-cha gang. Wati my body, cha-cha gang. Give me the cha-cha gang, cha-cha gang. Wati my body.